Everything is fine here on Detention Block AA23, a Star Wars podcast. I'm Mike, joined by Dustin.
It's just fine. Everything's fine, guys.
Everything's fine. We'll make it through. Fire all over the place. Things
That
going crazy.
that scene that is our namesake really sums up what's going on.
Touche. What a
I
relevant
think,
podcast name.
Mudge. I know I've said I don't want to yuck anyone's yum, but I think I've come up with a scientific revelation that will change humanity forever.
Humanity.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I
Not
read a
just
book.
Star Wars, but humanity in
Yeah,
general.
yeah.
Mm.
So I read a book.
Words of wisdom coming.
I read a book. I listened to a book. It was called Dark Matter. Some of our listeners and viewers might know of Dark Matter not through the book, but now there's a really great adaptation show of that Apple TV. That show it depicts, a quantum realm where there is a multiverse and somebody going through that multiverse and what it might look like. Well, here's what I think. I think the people on social media who are like praising the acolyte are from a different dimension, a different multiverse, where somehow the show was actually made correctly and made good or made well,
Is
right? Like that's my scientific discovery. I think that the acolyte and the some reaction to it on social media is proof that there is a multiverse.
is that like what's that theory called?
String theory?
Um no,
Schrodinger's cat?
no, where people remember the same thing differently.
Yes, that is
It's on the tip of my tongue. Mandela
the
effect.
Mandela effect. Yes. But I don't think that's
Is
this.
it,
I think this is a quantum realm that we're in where somehow in a different multiverse, the show was made properly. Because this ain't it, guys. Like it ain't it. I'm sorry, we're 4 episodes in. Spoiler alert, if you've watched the show, if you haven't, don't. Uh, and again,
that's funny.
I just want to say nothing to do with any of the social bullshit, social commentary, whatever. It just has everything to do with just absolutely horrendous writing, subpar acting. And I don't want to criticize the actors because the script and the writing is so bad that like there's only so much you could do with this hunking pile of shit that we have. Um, it just so I texted a buddy of mine. I might have texted you this smudge, but this feels like if Star Wars was made for the CW, right? Like
It really kind of does.
this is like a
And
adult books come to life, is what it feels
and
like.
almost like Twilight too, a little bit.
Yeah. Yep.
Uh,
I would agree with that.
uh I will say, like, I know you're partially kidding too with your opening statement. Like, if you're enjoying this show, all the power to you. I'm glad you can get value out of it, and I'm glad you can enjoy it. It needless to say, this we're not enjoying this show probably as much as the people that are enjoying it. So, and
And here's what we're going to tell you why we don't enjoy it. Okay.
yeah,
And you can disagree with perfectly fine. Um,
yeah,
I,
absolutely.
I'm curious. I'm curious as to why people who like it really like it because I wanted to like the show. I said this from the first couple episodes. Like
We all did.
we
We all
wanted to
did.
see the show. So I came with an open mind. I blocked out all of the social media vitriol for, the woke crap and all that. I watched it with completely open mind and I've just come to the conclusion it is not good. It's not a good show. It's not good Star Wars. It's not. I mean, on the CW it would maybe be good because that's where it belongs. But just right from the get go of this episode, you're just like,
Well, and it and to my opinion, in my opinion, it's not just the writing too. It's if you're a fan of like the Star Wars lore, it's hard to see why this would be enjoyable. Like so many things are either changing or, in my opinion, like a slap to the face of some of the things. It's just like growing up on the original trilogy and then the prequel trilogy, like it's just it's tough.
I,
In my
my thing is,
opinion, it's tough.
I don't even care about that. I just care like it's just not good content. Like
Right.
it's
Well, I like I said, on top of like the poor story writing, if you're also a fan of the lore, it's going to be challenging as well.
true. So I mean, you add that on top of it for sure. I can see that is compounding on its issues. But
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't care about the characters, right? They're not well written. And here's the thing. So before I watched the Acolyte episode, I watched an episode of Dark Matter. And before that, I watched the Netflix series, sorry, Three Body Problem. And then after I watched Acolyte, I watched an episode of Game of Thrones. One of those things is not like the other, and it has nothing to
100%.
do with anything else except the writing,
Hell,
acting in those other shows. And by the way, so I was doing this after I watched Acolyte. I really paid attention to the set design and like how like,
me too.
the difference between the sets in the Game of Thrones, season 2 of House of Dragon. There are look, I mean, I think that has gotten a little lazy throughout Hollywood or whatever you want to call it, but like it's night and day difference between the set designs of
Well, I
House
mean,
of Dragon and Acolyte.
you went through that list. You don't even have to go outside the franchise. Throw in the show Andor in there, and it's night and day difference. Even the sets, I mean, it looks a lot better. I will say the music is decent in the Acolyte. Credit where it's due. The music is enjoyable, but the acting in Andor compared to this night and day, just the story writing, everything is just on a whole new level. And the Acolyte got so much more money than all these other Star Wars projects. It's hard to fathom what went wrong.
You look like a movie like Godzilla minus one, and
Yeah,
like on an absolute shoestring budget. The guy,
yeah,
the movie, like visually incredible. Like Vanestra, great dude. She looks just like somebody who's painted green.
it's terrible. It's terrible.
Like I don't believe for one second she's an alien. Like I
No,
just think that is a bald woman that is into being painted green.
or has a bald cap on it on her, one or the other.
And then that takes away from her performance because I'm like,
You're distracted.
yeah, I'm like, so again, we call it the suspension of disbelief, right? Like we are watching something that we know doesn't exist. Well, when you make it that bad, when it comes to the effects, it's just like, oh, I don't believe this for one second. So that was one thing. I know so we're in a group chat and we talk about things. I don't necessarily think, again, I don't even want to break down the episodes like scene by scene. I just want to talk about some of the things that I just find, negative, but also positive.
Well,
There's some positive things.
I don't think we have to break it down, but let's like compartmentalize the episode so we can like be more strategic on what
Yeah,
we
strategic.
what we're finding to be issues with this show, whether it's story writing, acting, whatever we want to talk about. Does
Yeah,
that work for you? How does that sound?
absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, like Clint.
All right. So let's just do it like essentially not, yeah, scene by scene or, well, okay. So it starts off and we're on Kofar, and this is where the Wookiee Jedi is, what's his name? Kelnaka. That's right. Kelnaka. And I I will say it is kind of interesting. So they had like designs from the witches. So he's like kind of mourning, maybe, or honoring them because they're like all painted and stuff like that. Um, I thought it started out all right, and totally fine with that situation. And then we go back to the school. So now this is where we see all these young Jedi in training. I like Jackie. I the That's the actress who played in Logan.
Yeah.
She's done a really good job, I feel like. So again, credit where it's due.
Yeah,
I
but that
think,
was a CW moment where they're like, oh, I'm gonna miss you, and I'm gonna miss you.
yeah, little corny, little corny,
So just hokey, like yeah. So
and not really believable because of that. But um,
I like when the red bearded guy. He reminded me of Tormund from Game of
Game of
Thrones.
Thrones.
I always like the Scots guy. Done, feed it.
Feed it,
That's
feed
who
it,
that reminded.
feed it well, or whatever. Have you
Yeah,
seen the recent commercial with that,
yeah. The guy's like, yeah,
where it's like very sexual?
yeah. He's talking. Yeah, it's very. I just disappeared there for a second.
You
I got
did,
it's very suggestive.
yeah.
I
It's
love
kind of
that.
hilarious, and it's creeping the other guy out in the commercial.
He's like, "Do you need me to show you how to spread the seed?" He's like, "Yeah, I know. I think I got it."
I think I got it.
So anyway, so yeah, that was I just he reminded me of Tormund. That's why that was kind of cool.
Yeah, choreography was good too, and like the training, like that was pretty neat. All right, and then we're into the woods where May and Kimar, they're they're in search for Kelnaka. So before we get into one of my issues later on, let's just remind everyone what they're here for, what they're doing, meaning May. So she's setting out to go kill these four Jedi that were involved in the whole burning down of the coven and killing all the Osha and May's family, because the Jedi came to take the two girls, and this was all a result of that. So she's been stooling on this for like 13 or so years.
You mean Stuart?
Yeah, stewing. What did I say?
Stewing?
Or whatever.
She's been
Stewing on it
13 years.
for 13 years, full of hate, full of revenge, all that dark sidey stuff. And she's already killed two Jedi. I mean, I know Torben took the poison, but I mean, accomplice to the murder here. So,
Kimji, that's his name. Is that his name? Her little sidekick.
Kimar.
Yeah, sorry. What? Yeah, who's a bumbling idiot. Is acted and portrayed that way, and I recognize him. He was in a show called The Good Life with shoot, what's her name? Great actress, great show. Ted Danza was in there. But anyway, he played the same exact character that he's playing in this show, which is just like a bumbling idiot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and, so he's, they're packing up their gear, and like, something falls out of his bag, and he just looks like completely disorganized, disheveled.
Smoke and mirrors.
But again, it's done so poorly that I'm like, if this is the Sith Lord, I am not afraid of him whatsoever. And not Sith Lord, right? I think it's been confirmed that these aren't like traditional Sith, right? But if he's the bad guy with the red lightsaber, I'm like, this guy is hilarious.
There's really like only two people who I can see being that red saber wielding dark sidey guy. We won't say Sith because, to your point, it's not necessarily a Sith. So two potential people, maybe a third, but in my opinion, it's either Kimar or Coral.
I think it's Kimar. I think, but or they could be doing a stupid thing where like, yeah, which okay,
or maybe like Kimar's the apprentice to, because there's the boss. Remember, there's potentially a boss, another figure here, so that could be Coral, who is masterminding Kimar, whatever his name is.
Well, I think the boss, so Kimar is playing it cool, because he mentions the boss. So, what would the boss think? All that. Well, he's the boss.
Yeah,
I don't think
could
there's
be,
somebody above him, or
could
at
be.
least that hasn't been even revealed or discussed.
Right, right.
So,
But if he's a baddie, there could be another person involved. It, I, I wouldn't be shocked, let's just say, if there's two people involved in this. But
I mean, he's
it's
really laying it on thick that
well,
that who he is, which makes me wonder if they're trying to misdirect us, to make us think that he's that guy, and then it's
but such obvious, like, I don't know. It's like really forceful in terms of trying to lead us away from thinking he's the bad guy when
but
he
again, he's just not a well-written character. I don't believe him, right? Like, I also know the actor he was portrayed by in other shows, and it also takes it away from me because again, a bumbling idiot. That's who he's played in prior
sure.
or shows I've seen,
Well,
and
and
and in the show.
and this isn't an attack on this show because Star Wars just does this in general. Because I think of Empire Strikes Back and snow speeders like flying head on into like the AT-AT's guns. You have a ship, right? The May and Kima are in a ship and they're arriving at this planet.
Which also CGI terrible, terrible when that
Yeah,
landed.
you've got like normal land, and then you look in the distance and it's like total CGI.
But I'm also talking about the ship itself. Like,
Oh, the ship it's yeah. That's like Obi-Wan Kenobi airspeeder quality CGI. It's just terrible. Um, but you have a ship. Why? First of all, why are you landing it where you're landing it? Why don't you land closer to like where the thick woods are just to make it easier so you're not walking a long distance? And two, and this is very nitpicky, but like it's hard not to see this in my eyes. You literally landed on one side of a river and then crossed the river. Like, why not just land on the other side of the river? You know what I'm saying?
okay, dude, we're gonna point out 15 of these moments where it's like this doesn't make sense. Why would a character do this? So I have a couple examples.
Yeah, let's hear them.
Well, I mean, if we want to go, they're later on in the episode. So
Oh, okay, so they're not right now.
yeah,
Okay, so anything more on like uh Kimar and May as they're entering the woods?
their conversation was just boring to me. He's like trying to goad her up, goad her into, trying to figure out like why she's supposed to do this with no weapons. Now we can't talk about this because I think it happens relatively early, where she's like, "I'm gonna turn myself into the Jedi."
Yeah, no, that's later. We'll get to that.
Okay,
We'll get to that.
wait, but I mean, all right, moving on.
Do you I've got a question for you.
Sure.
Would it made it better, at least slightly better, if you used two different actresses for Osha and May?
Like
I think
if they weren't twins or something.
no, they can be twins, but if they were like a different actor. Because while I'm watching this, I'm like, I know it's the same person each time, and it's a little distracting. Because like I'm seeing how she acts under one character and then how she acts under the other character. But then in the back of my head, I know it's the same person.
I just think because this has been done how many times, right?
Yeah, I
Like,
think of like Man in the Iron Mask with Leonardo DiCaprio playing two people. Like in my opinion,
it's
just
been done a million times. I think this is all in the writing. That's
yeah.
my. I don't think it's the actress so much.
No. I'm not saying it's the actress. Not at all.
So anyway,
All right, so continuing on. So they show the opening credits, and then we're back at the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. And this is the scene where like all the Jedi Masters are there. Kid Mundi is there. So, and it's confirmed because he's in the credits. It is Kid Mundi. And this is when things really start spiraling out of control for me.
this is like the
Uh,
third scene in the show.
yeah, it's the
Sorry.
third scene in the show. And again, we've talked about like contradictions we've seen in previous episodes, some of them within the same episodes, and that just don't make sense. Um, the biggest one in here, the
Nick
biggest
Cage,
one in this,
I saw it with my own eyes. Yeah, no,
I
or
believe you. I believe you. She's alive.
literally in the same breath almost.
Yeah.
And
So
then you're about to. Oh,
this one was literally in the same scene, conversation, back to back conversation. So this is the biggest one for me in this episode. You have Vernestra Rowe talking with all the Jedi Masters, and they're talking about the situation with Osha and May, and that May is still alive. And Vernestra's like, hold on, we cannot let the High Council know this. We need to withhold this information from them. So let's keep it a secret. Shh, let's not say anything. And then literally as she's walking out of the room with Soul, she's like, how dare you withhold that information of May from me? So you're like telling all these masters to withhold information from the High Council, but if someone withholds information from you, naughty, naughty. Like, is that poor writing or is it a hypocritical character? Both. I just thought that was terrible.
yeah, and it's so, and then Soul trying to convince, or is it Osha trying to convince Soul that she needs to go with him, or vice versa?
Vice versa. Soul's trying to use her almost as bait in the situation. But yeah,
His
and
acting went downhill this episode, by the way.
a little bit,
The,
yeah.
the person who plays Soul, and just kind of a funny moment that I noticed, like, uh, he asked, okay, so yeah, he asked her to come with, and he's like, "Oh, you want me to rejoin the Jedi?" And she got all excited. He's like, "No," and she's like, "Oh, okay, well, I'm gonna go now." Did you notice that? That was,
Yeah.
you know,
And did you not feel like that scene where like he spots her? She's like walking in the room and he's like, "Oh, shot.
how about
Did
like,
that you're on Coruscant. Did that not look like the smallest room ever?" Like again, it just feels like we're in like small set rooms filming this instead of like the expansiveness that Star Wars is. What was that? What'd you say?
that's the whole feeling of the show. That's why, I mean, that's why I don't believe the sets, because they
Yeah,
feel like
so
everything.
confined.
Yeah, juxtapose that with uh Game of Thrones, the new House of Dragon season, and they go to like Winterfell, and it's just awe-inspiring, right? Like
Yeah,
all the sets are just incredibly done. Like I believe that those places exist. I don't believe that that fucking forest exists. Like they're
yeah,
walking through that forest, and I'm like, this is a set.
yep,
This doesn't look real. Like the rocks don't look real. Like you can tell like there's CGI in the background. So now, I mean, the acting's bad, the writing's bad, the set design is bad. So, and then the dialogue on the fucking ship when they're when the Jedi are going to the planet. And again, also here's another thing: the wardrobe is shit,
yeah.
right? Like these look like these look like I
Halloween store costumes.
I'm telling you, dude. What's the organization that does the stormtrooper stuff?
Oh, like the 501st.
Yeah, the 501st wouldn't let these guys in. Like I swear to God, if you like went on set, stole the costumes from the set, and went to the 501st and said, "I'd like to join," they would be like, "Get the fuck out of here."
That is funny. Hey, don't make me wear that robe. And then she gets to wear the robe. That white robe. Remember when she made
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, the dialogue on the ship, I'm like, what, and she acts weird. She's like staring at the weird mole looking thing. What's that? Is it a he or him? It's a they. Like it's just weird. It's just out of place, out of context, and so they land on the planet. I apologize if I'm missing thing. I'm just trying to get to the scene that just
You're just on pins and needles waiting for what you want to talk about, right?
I am. So they land, right? And so the scene before, she's like wondering what that mole fucking creature was, right? So they land. They're talking to a local. The one gal's talking to a local, right? She's trying to figure out
Jackie.
if anyone's seen Kelnaka, right?
Yep.
So she's trying to get information. Not 2 fucking seconds later, they go, "Oh, that mole-looking guy, he's a tracker," and he sniffs the little thing and then just goes in the direction where Kelnaka is. Why would you have to ask the locals where he was at? You knew you had a tracker the whole time. It is so dumb. It's such poor writing. Like you would
It
literally
is.
stand, here's the cloth, sniff it, okay, and then go find. And of course, the Jedi hired the absolute worst tracker on the fucking planet. Right?
Who
There's
just disappears.
I'm sorry, not the planet, the galaxy, right? Because even Jord is like, we have to get a tracker for our tracker. This guy's so bad. Did you hear him say that?
Yeah, we got to get a tracker for it. So this isn't the first time he's done that. So like maybe get someone new.
Yeah, you knew the guy was shit. And you take him on this important mission? Like they think it's funny. See, that is the young adult CW kind of writing because
Yeah.
it's funny, but like you guys are in the serious pursuit of a dangerous situation and you hired a clown to do your bidding.
Well, and I mean, there's so many fans like you and I that, and the rest of our team here, like we take this stuff seriously. Like this stuff means a lot to us. I mean, hell, it was one of the things that brought you and I together. It's like one of the things that allowed us to click. So, I mean, this stuff is important to us. We don't want like, ha ha ha, like CW young adult, slapstick funny stuff. Like, no.
Times where it really works, like when Poe Dameron's like, do I talk? Do you talk?
Yeah, that's good.
Right?
That's better.
Like, and some of the things that like that's not how the Force works. Like those were well executed,
Yeah,
right?
it was more natural,
Oh,
more organic.
yeah. This is just like so forced. I was hoping the mole creature would get eaten by something in the forest because I didn't care for that creature one little bit. Of course, they do that just to sell toys.
Yep. Along with that other droid that she's got in her pocket, Osha. That's another merchandise thing. Merchandise. But
Yeah,
yeah,
there's the moment, they're walking through the forest and she like touches the thing on. First of all, like trope is like, oh, she goes and touches something she shouldn't, right?
do you know what was also annoying for me as they're like walking through this like jungle and everything?
That the predator didn't come out and just murder all of them.
Well, it could have easily, because what I'm getting to is why is it like as the whole group is walking, when the camera comes to focus on two, they just like stop. They stop and like have this conversation as everyone is, progressing on. Like I feel like we don't really see that in shows or anything. Like that just wouldn't happen. You're on a serious mission. You're in a dangerous jungle. Yeah, you're like, okay, let's stop and have a conversation. We'll let everyone continue on, but we're going to stop and have this conversation. Like it's so unnatural, in my opinion. And then like she touches that like roly poly flying thing, and it goes away, and then she turns around and like right away doesn't notice the thing she just touched is gone until it's like screeching in the sky. It's like, so again, you're on a mission where you're trying to like be aware of your surroundings and you don't even notice the thing you touched is gone now.
Yeah, and then they're forcing like that. They're forcing her force powers to get better when they're not earned.
Right.
You remember she made a comment, oh,
I connected with that thing.
connected with the creature, and then I got it killed because I scared it.
The thing that tried to kill you.
I just and I'm like, okay, how did you scare it? You touched it, right? Like,
Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
know.
So I didn't believe that at all. And of course, then simultaneously you have May, coming to that realization.
Oh, that's right up there with the
It doesn't
whole.
change anything. The guy, it doesn't change anything. It changes everything. Okay, that's true, right? Like, you didn't know your sister was alive. I'm sure that would change things for you. But how she comes to that conclusion is so abrupt and so forced.
And oh, I'm gonna turn myself in after killing 2 Jedi.
Yeah,
They'll
they'll
be
show.
okay. They'll be okay with me. Really? You think? They were just putting OSHA, they were gonna imprison her without even proof just a couple episodes ago. Like, you think they're gonna be okay with you? No. You're you're done.
Yeah. And then kind of the crescendo of the episode, right? So, May goes off and starts screaming, acting like she's in trouble, and it was just to distract. Again, if this guy's a Sith Lord, he's the dumbest, or I'm sorry, if he's the bad guy, he's the dumbest bad guy on the planet because he goes and runs. At the end of the episode, they'll show us something. So if this guy has any force power at all, like he's clearly got duped so easily. So she, how does she set up a trap that fast? By the way, like how does she even know how to do that? We don't know. So she sets this, like the Home Alone trap. He goes flying up in the air. And then she goes off to find Kelnaka. She, runs. Was it her that ran into the mole creature?
Uh-oh.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I lost you for a second, but you're back now. Yeah, it was her that like stumbled into like those mushroom things that blew up spores, and then the thing was like,
Yeah. Which I mean, he was wearing a map. He was taking a nap in the forest. He was wearing his little like freaking sleep.
sleep visor.
Yeah. And so she runs in to the little hut, the little forest hut that Kelnaka has. And dude, you have got to be fucking kidding me. Right? Like a Wookiee Jedi that everyone is super excited about, and you kill him off screen.
Well, they did that with what's her face.
But by the way, the way he's killed, right? He's in a chair facing away from everybody. He's slashed in the front, right? He didn't even really draw his weapon. So the Sith guy basically killed him in an unfair fight. I keep on saying Sith, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't even get to die a good death.
Well, it was fresh because you still saw the embers from the slice. Yeah. Just and in the trailers and everything, they had scenes of him fighting. And they announced
those will be flashbacks. And
no, they already said it was budgeting and they took out the scenes.
are you fucking kidding?
No, that's what the one of the writers came out and said.
So
They thought that it
that makes
might
sense.
take away from the mysteriousness of the situation or something like that.
Yeah, man, holy shit. Yeah, so that is it's just absolutely inexcusable. How do you shoot a scene and then that becomes over budget to put it in? Didn't you already spend the money to shoot the scene?
Well, and they thought, like I said, it was also I mean, they had to cut down to fit certain time frame, so they cut that out. And I mean, you know what it was used for? It was to get attention, put in the trailers. Who wouldn't want to see a Wookiee with a saber fighting? But
Anyway, mercifully, we're getting to the end of talking about this episode. So they all rush. Of course, May's caught red-handed, and the Wookiee's dead, right? I don't know if they know that necessarily. I think she comes out and maybe says, or she comes out of the hut and like she's caught.
They haven't had that conversation yet, because as they're telling her to come out, that's when the figure approaches.
Now, I will say the entrance was pretty cool. It kind of like floats down,
Yep.
right?
There was definitely an element of creepiness to it.
Yeah.
So that was executed well. Like the end, the last 20 seconds, good job. That was done well. It has made me interested in seeing where this picks up in the next episode. Everything before that, pretty much crap.
Dude, I'm telling you what they're going to do the next episode.
What's that?
So they're going to go back to the witches and do the Jedi story. They're going to completely kill their momentum and go back and do the
No, I think they will actually pick it up because
Okay.
it's the same writer that did this one.
I'll put a friendly wager on that.
All right.
The wager
Six
is
pack.
with me, and I don't charge you 10 grand a night for the draft as well, 25.
All right. That's a win.
But mercifully, the episode ends. And again, dude, 32 minutes is how long the episode was after I paused it. It says
32 minutes. That's not even content time. That's start and end of the full episode with credits and everything.
no,
Right?
no. Like,
Oh, okay.
it's probably like right around 30 minutes long. But the show,
Okay.
if I like were to end it, like to slide all the way to end, it's like 42 minutes. So there's 10 minutes of complete and utter filler. I mean, that we should go to Congress and say that should be illegal. That you're going to say your episode's 42 minutes when it's really
False
only
advertisement.
30 minutes, and you've just put like 12 minutes of credits in. It's really disingenuous, dude. I hate. I don't say hate. I really don't like this show. I don't want to keep watching the show. It's just not good. For the reasons mentioned, right? Like the decisions the characters make are bad, which is because of the bad writing. The sets are unbelievable, and I don't mean that in a good way. I mean, like, I literally don't believe that they're in a forest on a different planet. Just I mean, so far the bad guy doesn't feel very powerful, especially if you think that the bad guy is the one guy's name. I forget it already.
Kimmer?
Right? Like, if that's him, I'm like, this guy doesn't scare me at all. I would not be threatened.
Well, and the other like suspension of disbelief. We're really to believe that both parties in this what's supposed to be like a huge dense woods planet, impossible to like find anything. We got bring in trackers and stuff, that they end up at the right spot at the same time. Like, really? You're not even with your tracker. The tracker ran off. And you end up at the right spot. Like, okay.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make.
It's supposed to be this arduous journey, right? It's supposed to be really tough to get there and hard to find. And it took them what, like 30 minutes?
30 minutes and one roly-poly creature to kill. Not that challenging, but okay.
So yeah, again, it's just, man, it really destroys a lot of momentum for any like other shows that are going to come out, because I'm just going to think the worst.
And we didn't even talk about the whole Monday situation.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about that, I don't. That's the least of my concerns with this show.
Yeah, but that bothers me. I mean, going back to the whole lore situation, whether his age is truly canon or not, there was trading cards that was released during the prequel trilogy that had his age at 70, and depending on how much you put stock in Wikipedia, it had him at 93 BBY. They obviously brought Mundi in the show, which means that he's now alive during a time that he wasn't supposed to be born yet. Now, if you're doing your research for the show, it's not that hard just to do like a Google search and be like, all right, would Kid Mundi be around during this time? All right. 93 is like the agreed upon 93 BBY is agreed upon birth year. Okay, well, let's figure something else on what we can do. It's lazy. It's lazy and it's not honoring, the knowledge that we already have before us. And even if you throw out the age, because the age is the least important about this situation. If Mundi is in this meeting with these Jedi masters and they know there's a situation going on, like you're telling me that when he's in the High Council meeting about during the Phantom Menace that it wouldn't dawn on him like, oh, well, there was this situation back then. Now, again, this character or this bad guy might not be a Sith or not, but like, come on, connect the dots a little bit. Unless he's just really just trying to hide it. I don't know. It just, to me, it was a slap to the face of like the diehard Star Wars fans that really study the lore and everything because it just does not align. That's just my 2 cents on that.
I mean, nothing, dude. Is like I don't care about the story. Okay, so there's supposed to be this murder mystery, which they completely botched, right? Because
It's not even a mystery. Like,
that's what it's supposed to be like, kind of at the beginning, right? They completely botched it. The four Jedi apparently aren't very likable people, right? So like, you don't care that they were getting murdered, and so and apparently there's this boss in the background that's pulling the strings. So like May's killing these people on this guy's behest. Well, the guy's a pussy. He can't do it himself.
I would think it would be interesting if it is Coral because
Oh,
Coral. I mean, there's at least there's logic that could be made if it's Coral because going back to when all the witches were killed and everything, like you don't see Coral's body amongst the dead. You think they would focus on that. And Coral has this like disdain for the Jedi. And it would make complete sense to me that she staged, well, maybe not staged that, but committed that crime of killing all those and destroying the Coven in a way to pin it on the Jedi. And then now she's coming back and using that to influence May to go and kill these Jedi. Like that makes sense to me. If you did that, okay. There's a little bit of good creativity and story writing there's at least some there. But I don't know if that's how it's going to turn out.
Well, I do. So Coral was the one who carried Osha and May. It doesn't seem plausible to me that she would threaten to kill her daughter, right?
She didn't. She wasn't killing her daughters, though. She was killing remember the rest of the Coven that we don't see actually get killed? It like in a flash.
No, I mean, like, okay, during the discussion between, I forget the guy's name already. The
Kimmer.
I forget. So with his conversation with May, May's like, "Well, he'll kill me, or the boss will kill me if I don't do this." So clearly, there's like this looming threat. I just find that would be weird to me, right? Like somebody you've now, hey, right? Like the dark side is depicted that way, right? I mean, like Vader was supposed to kill his
own son.
So okay, I guess there's some precedent. I've worked through it. We got through this.
But I think it's 50-50 on who it is. I think the way the story's playing out, it makes sense or not make sense. It seems like it's going to be Kimar.
That mask would be very uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable with a Zabrak wearing that. Agreed. But it's also kind of a smaller figure.
Yeah, but
I guess Kimar is not really the biggest guy. He's not too big. And they did show a scene of him when he's doing that like force push or whatever. Like it showed his hands, and they are. masculine looking hands. Sorry, that's not to be like, sexist by any means, but
I guess the one thing you could do is you could go back and you could look at how tall Coral was compared to May. Well, no, they were kids. Damn. But like, because like you get a full picture of height, or maybe better yet, like if Kamir's standing next to May, there's that one scene where they're like literally like right next to each other in the
Mhm.
second episode. Because when the guy comes, the bad guy at the end comes down and is right in front of OSHA, they're like standing right next to each other. I think it's Kimir.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think it's 50-50. I think I think it's going to be Keemer, but I think it would make for a
Every
better
different
story if it was Coral, in my opinion.
So anyway, man, that's all I got to talk about this particular episode. I do not care for this show.
But we'll continue watching it. This is fine. We'll we'll continue watching it because we want to bring the content to everyone. And I don't know, it's still Star Wars. This is a show I probably will watch once through, maybe twice, and that's it. But I'll just speak to our social media handles really quick so you can find us
Spread the gospel.
on Twitter at DetBlock AA23pod, on Instagram at detention_block_AA_23. Then our Facebook group and YouTube channel, Detention Block AA23, a Star Wars podcast. And then you can find us on TikTok at DetBlock AA23. Bring us your likes, follows, downloads, subscriptions, reviews, ratings, all of it. We appreciate any little thing that you can do for us, as it definitely helps us get our name out there amongst all the Star Wars podcasts and YouTube channels out there. Even though we're not really enjoying the show, I am looking forward to bringing more content to talk with everyone about next Tuesday. If we're talking about poor writing, how much do you want to bet? The next episode is called Night, since this episode was called Day. just throwing it out there, especially since the events of that episode took part during the day, and then when they encounter this dark force wielder, it's now night. So just throwing it out there that it's probably going to be called Night. We'll see. But yeah. Any final thoughts from you, Dustin? I really thought we were gonna have Zach on today. I really thought we were gonna have him.
I did too, man. I was really excited to have him on because
we got to get him on for the show because he agrees with us. So
I'd like to find someone who doesn't agree with us so we could have a polite discussion on I would say we'd have a hard time finding in our group of fellow Star Wars fans anybody that
it would be hard, because you even said
my buddy texted me after he watched the episode and he said this is fucking Power Rangers with a higher budget.
That's a great comparison. Power Rangers, even like the whole feel of it feels like Power Rangers is a little more exaggerated, but it's kind of in that same lane. I
think he's trying to be dramatic for effect. That's what I said. I said this is like a CW show, and he's like, my wife who watches the CW is offended.
Well, then what's his face? One of our first guests,
Jordan.
Jordan. When you said that he wasn't enjoying it, I was kind of shocked by that.
I appreciate that he has good logical sense.
Actually, that's true. So I shouldn't say I'm shocked by that, because he would understand good writing and bad writing pretty easily. So it makes sense. Yeah, I agree though. There's no one I've talked to that's a Star Wars fan has enjoyed the show. So, and I know there are people, again, all the power to you, but I feel like just like there's a lot of people or a lot of bots that are bringing down like the Rotten Tomatoes score. I do believe that's happening. I do also believe there's a lot of influencers out there that are trying to spin it in a positive way too. It works both ways. So like actually have conversations with people if you want to truly understand if they're enjoying it or not, and find out what those reasons are. There's a lot of people that are getting paid by Disney to promote the show and are influencers out there. So just remember that as well. So with that, we will wrap up for today. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for listening in. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Have a great rest of your week. We will be back next Wednesday to talk through the next episode of Acolyte. I think I asked you any final thoughts and then cut you off. So any final thoughts from you?
The sooner this is over, the better. And honestly, this is one of the shows where I'm like, I don't want it to be any longer because it's just more misery.
Season 1 and then be done. Season 1 done. Let's hope.
Man, I don't know how you salvage it. It's worse. It's worse to me than Halo, which is saying a lot.
It's worse than Book of Boba Fett.
Dude, the Vespas look like fucking badass ships to me right now.
I still think that's the worst scene in all Star Wars. That's terrible. But the rest of the show is good. The Vespa scene is worse than pretty much all the stuff we've gotten out of Acolyte. That was just awful in my eyes. All right. Well, with that, again, enjoy the rest of your day. And as always, may the force be with you.
I got nothing.
I'll say, and also with Dustin, since he just, and his family, since they just moved to the God state of Wisconsin.
Yeah,
he's in the Holy Land. So good luck with the rest of your move.
Yeah, we're just on most everything's unboxed. So now it's just about cleaning this shithole up.
You got it. I have faith in you.